A Pokémon Nuzlocke. Considered to be one of the most popular challenges to add to your own Pokémon adventure, a Nuzlocke adds a few key rules to your playthrough to add some difficulty to the relatively easy games. 1. You can only catch the first Pokémon you encounter on each route. 2. If a Pokémon faints, it's considered dead and can no longer be used. I've never actually completed a Nuzlocke. I've started plenty, but I've never been able to finish one. Until today. And by today, I mean a few weeks ago when I beat the game. It's actually taking a while to edit this video. However, I've always wanted to actually complete one. So why not try it now? Now, it's an important distinction to bring up that this is a Hardcore Nuzlocke. A Hardcore Nuzlocke is the same idea as a regular Nuzlocke, but with 3 extra rules. 1. No items in battle. Held items are allowed. 2. Set mode must be on, meaning that when I KO a Pokemon, I cannot switch out without wasting my turn. Lastly, I cannot level up my Pokemon past the next gym leader's ace, meaning I can't level grind and sweep every gym. I also play with Dupe's Claws, a rule that makes it so I cannot get repeat encounters, meaning I don't have to have 4 Purloins and 6 Rattatas. I chose Pokemon White 2 due to the fact that Generation 5 is my personal favorite and it has a large amount of choices for encounters. But what I didn't account for was that among the Nuzlocking community, Pokemon Black and White 2 are considered some of the hardest games to Nuzlocke. So, if you came here for an easy Nuzlocke where I lose no Pokemon, you're going to be sorely mistaken. This is part 1 of a 2-part special documenting my first Nuzlocke. I'll explain at the end why this is split into 2 parts, but until then, enjoy the video. And without further ado, let's start this adventure. I start my journey by naming myself Tyler and naming my rival Frank. I don't even know a Frank. After being woken up by our mother, we go outside to meet Frank and his sister, and can I just say they look nothing alike? What's really going on here, Frank? Where's your dad? Where's my dad? Anyways, I meet up with Bianca, the professor's assistant, and pick my starter. I thought about it for a bit, as all 3 starters aren't bad choices. Snivy has good special and speed, Tepig has great attack, and Oshawott is fairly balanced. I ended up deciding on Oshawott since water types will be scarce during the early game. I name him Jonathan, and he has a calm nature, which lowers attack in favor of special defense, which isn't good, but also isn't the worst possible option. By the way, I have a naming theme for this video, so if you figured it out, comment down below your guess. I crush Frank and head to Route 19 where I catch a Patrat, who I nicknamed Poco. He has a gentle nature, which is a totally great nature for an already frail and pretty garbage Pokemon. After meeting up with the ex-champion of the region and watching him attempt to escape from his personal purgatory, I head to Route 20 where I hope to catch a Sewaddle, who absolutely trivializes the first gym. Instead, I get something even better. Pidove. Yay. I catch him and nickname him Greyfly. His impish nature, though, somehow makes this awful bird Pokemon even worse. After crushing my rival and this strange Team Aqua wannabe, I catch a Mareep, who's actually an awesome encounter. I mean, it was either this or an Azurill. Mareep, who I nicknamed Dire, has a gentle nature as well. With this encounter, though, I have no option but to train up and attempt the first real challenge of the run, Gym Leader Charon. Charon, the normal-type specialist, is actually a pretty difficult first gym leader, as both his Pokemon have Work Up, a move that boosts the user's attack and special attack by 1 stage. Him setting these up would be extremely dangerous for all of my team members. But I have a plan. I start the battle and I lead Dire, while Charon leads Patrat. I move first and use Thunder Wave, a move that paralyzes the opponent. This status condition not only slows down the opponent, but also has a chance to fully paralyze, which means the victim cannot move for this turn. Patrat gets lucky and gets off a Work Up. However, it doesn't even matter, as Dire gets a critical hit Thunder Shock, which one-shots the Patrat. Out comes Charon's ace, Lillipup, and I go for Thunder Wave again, paralyzing the Lillipup. Lillipup is unaffected, and gets off another Work Up. I hit a Thunder Shock, and it does about a third, while Lillipup gets off another Work Up. Things are looking scary, but as I hit another Thunder Shock, Lillipup is paralyzed. This happens again, but I just barely missed the kill, meaning Charon heals his dog. Then Lillipup is able to get a hit off, and he does about half of Dire's HP in a single hit. Although this scared me half to death, luckily I'm faster, so I can finish off the Lillipup and finish off the first gym. Afterwards, Greyfly gets his one and only moment in the spotlight as he cleans up this hiker's Riolu. We make it to Verbank City not long after, and after sitting through a long intervention with gym leader Roxy and her dad, we beeline to the nearby Verbank complex. This area is separated into 2 separate parts, meaning I can get 2 encounters here, which will be my only 2 encounters before the next gym. Now, there's one Pokemon here I'm begging for, and that's Magnemite. Not only is Magnemite my favorite Pokemon of all time, but it also is an absolutely fantastic Pokemon for this game, as it bodies 4 of the gyms, Roxy, Berg, Skyla, and Marlin, and would make my life so much easier. Magnemite is available in both parts of the complex, but I could encounter Elekid in both, and a Growlithe inside of the complex. So I run around on the outside and hold a bated breath as my encounter appears. And it's Magnemite. I catch my beautiful ungendered child and name him Speedwagon. They have a hardy nature, which means no stat is better or worse. And the sad part is that is one of the best natures I've gotten so far. Though Magnet Pullover Sturdy is not the best. Inside the complex, I bully the workers and encounter a Growlithe, who unfortunately has the Flash Fire ability over the infinitively superior Intimidate ability. He also has a modest nature, which is just the best thing possible. After training my team up a bit and evolving Jonathan into Duwat and Dyer into Flaffy, I take on the Poison Gym Leader Roxy. Roxy leads with Coughing while I lead with Speedwagon. As mentioned before, Speedwagon absolutely walls everything Roxy has to throw at us, due to the Steel typing, which was super busted before Generation 6. Besides, since Steel is immune to poison, this gym really isn't anything to sweat about. I easily destroy Roxy's Coughing and Whirlipede with ease, giving us a second single Pokemon Sweep Gym and an easy second gym badge. I chase Roxy's dad down to Pokestar's studio, and I'll save you the boredom of sitting through this mid-game tutorial and simply say that we got Pop Roxy to give up on all of his dreams and ferry us over to Castelia City. Before picking up any encounters, I grab a bunch of important items like the EXP Share, Charcoal, Mystic Water, Miracle Seed, and Leftovers. I then head over to Route 4 and find a Sandile, who has a naughty nature, which boosts attack, but at the expense of special defense, which is extremely good. I call him Strazo, and I'm really excited to use him, as I've never actually gotten to use a Sandile before. I sure hope I get to use him, as he would make the usually difficult 4th gym a breeze. I sure hope. I then rappel my way through the sewers, yes, I went into the sewers, and make it to Relic Passage, which has a lot of encounters, most of which are pretty bad. I mean, why would you voluntarily pick up Onix or Woobat? However, this passage has a really good encounter in Drillbur, who evolves into Excadrill, which is undoubtedly one of the best encounters for this run, and one of the best Pokemon introduced in this gen. I really want a Drillbur, so I use a trick called Repelling. How Repelling works is just using the Repel mechanics. It's actually not nearly as complicated as it sounds. You see, a Repel halts any Pokemon lower than your party lead's level from encountering you, so as long as one of my Pokemon is a higher level than the rest of the area's levels, I can avoid all encounters in order to ensure that I catch a Drillbur who spawns in these weird dust patches that occasionally spawn. But I read the highest level of the area wrong, meaning the Repel doesn't work and I trip on a random Pokemon. While you may not be able to hear it, I audibly yell NO! As the idea of having to waste an encounter on an Onix or Woobat is more pain than actually losing an encounter. I grit my teeth in fear, but fate decided that I wouldn't suffer just yet, and my encounter ended up being Roggenrola, who is one of my favorite Pokemon from this region. I catch this little heart attack, and he shall now be known as Kakyoin. He also has an adamant nature, which boosts attack and lowers special attack, which is really good compared to some of my other choices. I run up to Castelia Park, where I find a Rattata. Yay. I nickname him Bug Eaten, and with a lonely nature, he's actually not too bad. Except that, again, I got the lesser ability, having Runaway instead of the excellent Guts ability, which boosts the attack stat of a Pokemon if they have a status condition. Runaway simply means that I can run away from any wild battle. Hey, at least I can have a 2-rat team. However, while trying to find my Castelia Sewers encounter, I get into a fight with this lowly Rattata. I was leading Poco, and this filthy little rat gets Poco down low, to the point in which another hit would kill him off. I go to switch, but of course the Rattata has Pursuit, a move that does double damage if the opponent tries to switch out, and Poco gets killed in the line of fire. My first death. This stings a lot. While Poco wasn't my favorite member of the team, he hit like a truck, and I'd grown to love the little rat. Plus, now my 2-rat dream team has been crushed. And Bug Eaten doesn't even know what happened to his brother. Rest in peace, Poco. It's a shame it's a rat-kill-rat world out there. Anyways, after drying my tears, I eventually find a Zubat, who I'd named Dio. Dio is a timid nature, which boosts speed but lowers attack, which is... It's a double-edged sword, meaning that Crobat, who is naturally a speed demon, is much faster, but hits a lot weaker, so... yeah, that's great. But with this encounter, I can train everyone up and finally face the 3rd gym leader against Bug Specialist Berg. Now, Berg can actually be a serious threat. If this was Pokemon Black and White, Berg got heavily nerfed in this game due to him losing his Whirlipede and replacing it with a Swadloon. In fact, the only Pokemon on his team that even slightly worries me is Dwebble, as its Rock Throw is super effective against both Fire and Flying, which is how I plan on beating the rest of Berg's team. But, as with almost every battle, I have a plan. I lead Jonathan and Berg leads Swadloon. crud. I thought Berg was leading with Dwebble, but now Jonathan's at risk to a super effective critical hit. I quickly swap to Dio, who gets hit with a dangerous, highly lethal string shot. A single wing attack takes out the Swadloon next turn, and then comes in the previously expected Dwebble, who threatens Dio with a super effective smackdown. So I swap back into Jonathan, who's holding a Mystic Water, which boosts the power of water-type moves. Dwebble sets up a Rock Polish, and then hits a smackdown on Jonathan that barely does a fifth. Razor Shell takes Dwebble down to the low red, so next turn Berg uses a Hyper Potion, healing Dwebble to full. This sucks because now I have to worry about Dwebble's sturdy ability, making it so I can't one-shot the Dwebble. I use Razor Shell again, taking Dwebble back down to the red. Dwebble lands another smackdown, but I'm able to clean up the Dwebble by the end of the turn, drawing in Berg's ace, Levani, who Jonathan can't deal with. So I switch into Dio, who 4 times resists Levani, as shown by the pitiful 6 damage Levani's signature Razor Leaf does on the switch-in. And with a 4 times super effective wing attack on the next turn, the battle is won. I wasn't really worried about Berg. What I should have been worried about was the next battle. On Route 4, I have a battle with our rival, Polrez, a scientist who specializes in steel types. Now, as I mentioned earlier, steel is really good in this game. In fact, the only Pokemon on my team that is super effective against steel is Danny. But Danny's best move, thanks to his minus attack nature, is Ember, which sucks. Plus, Polrez has a Magnemite who can paralyze my entire team. This is gonna be rough. I start the battle, and I lead Danny against his Magnemite. My first Ember takes Magnemite down to the very low red, but it retaliates with a Thunder Wave. Great. Now I can miss every single turn. Next turn, Polrez heals his Magnemite, and I get paralyzed. Magnemite uses Spark, which does about a fourth, and Danny lands an Ember, taking the Magnemite back down to red. Spark hits again, and Danny breaks through the paralysis to hit a Flame Wheel, which knocks out the floating nuisance, which levels Danny up to level 21, where he learns Fire Fang in place of Flame Wheel. Still not great because it's a physical attack, but I have bigger fish to fry. Most notably, the incoming Clink, who I thought would be no problem, but because I'm paralyzed, I can't risk Danny dying, so I switch into Strazo, completely forgetting that ground is weak to steel. Clink uses Gear Grind, which hits twice, the first one doing about a third, so I should be able to live it. Unless the second one crits, which it does. This was pretty dumb of me, and the game punished me for it. Which hurts so much more, because I was actually excited to use Sandile. But now I have to bury him. What's even worse is that I have to still take out the Clink. I debate my options, but finally decide that my best option is to risk Danny's life to get a hit. Clink charges, raising his special defense, and I go for Fire Fang, which doesn't kill, meaning I have to survive another turn. So I swap into Speedwagon, hoping he can take a hit from the surprisingly evil set of gears. Clink charges again, but a Sonic Boom from Speedwagon kills the Sandile Slayer. I can't believe Polrez was the most difficult battle so far, and it cost me another great encounter. Strazo's death has another bad factor to it. Strazo was my main counter to Elisa, the electric-type gym leader, who is considered a run killer by many. Without him, my options for beating her are relatively low. However, all I can do is keep moving forward and keeping my lost companions in my heart. Plus, I have some more encounters to nab. In the Desert Resort, I found a Dwebble of my own, who I nicknamed Coco Jumbo. He's a jolly nature, which kinda sucks, but it could be worse. Well, he's not useful now, I'm sure he'll be important later. In Relic Castle, I found a Sandshrew, which is a really good encounter. She's not a bad replacement for Strazo. I call her Arena, and her sassy nature isn't the best, but more special defense is always welcome. While out here, I grab the Rock Tomb TM, and I also evolve Arena into Sandslash and Kakyoin into Boldore. Before I head too far along, I actually return back to Route 19, which may seem strange, but I have a really good reason for it. You see, Elisa is scary, more scary than I'd like to admit, and much scarier than I'd like to challenge right now. And Arena is my only real encounter to anything Elisa throws at me, so I want to make sure she can handle it. So I EV train. Now, for anyone who's outside of the deep Pokemon fandom, you may be scratching your head at what this is. EV train? What's that? Believe me, it's something I didn't know much about either, but it's basically a way to make your Pokemon better. How it works is that every Pokemon is delegated with a statistic called an effort value. This effort value is representative of one of the 6 stats a Pokemon can have: HP, attack, defense, special attack, special defense, and speed. So when a partner Pokemon knocks out a wild Pokemon, it gains that wild Pokemon's effort value, which stack on the party Pokemon, allowing a Pokemon to raise its stat gain for every evolution. For example, on Route 19, I can only encounter Patrats and Purloins. Patrats give 1 attack EV, and Purloins give 1 speed EV. So if I knock out every Pokemon I encounter, my attack and speed stat will grow much more per each level. So with that out of the way, let's continue. I make it to Nimbasa City, and I can grab a few more encounters before I have to take on Elisa. On Route 16, I find Minccino, who has the impish nature, a fine ability for a fine Pokemon. I name her Suzy Q, and she'll have to sit in the box for now. In the Lostlorn Forest, I catch Swadloon, who would have been a better encounter on Route 20. Nevertheless, I name him Devo, and his brave nature is surprisingly good. I then head ahead to Route 5, but before I can nab my encounter, Bianca appears and tells me all about hidden grottos, in addition to Pokemon Black and White 2 that can nab you some rare items in Pokemon. I debated on it, but ultimately decided that I would allow 2 hidden grotto encounters for my run. But this one doesn't count, since I already have a Minccino. Sucks to be you, loser. After this wonderful learning experience, I run around in the tall grass and find Solosis. I love Solosis so much, and is one of the reasons I picked White 2, and getting it as my encounter rocks. I call him Vanilla Ice, and he would be a valuable member of any team, if it wasn't for his adamant nature, which is the worst possible nature. Dang it. But like with most of these gyms, I've run out of things to do, and I'm out of stalling time, so now I have to challenge Elisa, who honestly scares me. Electric is a tough type to work against, and Elisa's team is honestly very well balanced and set up to destroy any idiot who tries to take her down. Today, I'm that idiot. In preparation for this gym, I train up a team of 6, including Bug Eaton and Coco Jumbo. Speaking of, Bug Eaton evolves into Raticate, who, with a plus attack nature, is actually a monster on the battlefield. In fact, every gym trainer in the gym gets squashed by Bug Eaton. But he can't take on Elisa alone, especially not with the runaway ability. That's Arena's job. Just in case of emergency, I do level my entire team up to the level cap of 30, which allows Speedwagon to evolve into Magneton. I also use a Firestone I found in Desert Resort to evolve Danny into Arcanine. Alright, if I lose to anyone, it's going to be Elisa. Let's go. Now, there's something important about Arena, something that makes this gym so much more easy for all of my team, and that's her typing, Ground. You see, what makes Elisa so annoying is her signature move, Volt Switch. What Volt Switch does is that it attacks the opponent with an electric attack, but then also swaps out the Pokemon that uses it. This is really annoying, especially on Elisa's team where she has Namolga, an electric flying type who has an immunity to ground, which the rest of her team is weak to. So, as you can probably guess, this makes Elisa a rather difficult opponent to plan around. This, though, does not apply to Arena, as electric cannot hit ground, meaning that when Elisa tries to use Volt Switch, it won't work, meaning that she can't use her signature move and taking away one of the many advantages Elisa had. This doesn't make this gym a walk in the park, though. I lead Arena, and Elisa leads Emolga. Emolga is faster thanks to my minus speed nature and goes for Pursuit. God. Pursuit. I'm having flashbacks. Is this how my grandpa felt? However, this time I have no intentions of swapping, and the move does around 1/10 of Arena's health. Arena responds with a Rock Tomb, see why I mentioned it earlier, and takes the Flying Rat down to early red. I also get the Speed Drop, and next turn Elisa heals while I go for another Rock Tomb, this time only getting into low yellow, but getting another Speed Drop. And on the final turn, I outspeed the Emolga and knock it out. There's the problem child out of the way, now onto the filler. Flaffy comes out next and I have to be careful. Flaffy has a static ability, which means that physical attacks against the user have a chance to paralyze the opponent, which would be awful for Arena, especially going into Elisa's ace. So I avoid using Dig and go for Magnitude, getting a level 10 Magnitude. For anyone confused, Magnitude is a move that has different power levels that are randomly chosen, from 1 being the worst to 10 being the best. So, of course, the Flaffy falls in a single hit. Then comes Elisa's ace, Zebstrika, but I'm not worried about this one. Zebstrika doesn't have static, instead has Motor Drive, which is an absolutely terrible ability for the electric type gym, so I'm clear to go for a Dig. But Zebstrika goes first and goes for Pursuit, which barely does anything. So Arena gets to use Dig, and when the Dig collides, it OHKOs, giving us a single Pokemon sweep again, and rendering one of my biggest worries completely pointless. Nice try, Elisa, but you're gonna have to bring a real threat next time. I then walk down the runway by Elisa and her models, and I have to say, it's so nice to be cheered at, especially after all the worry this gym has given me. It's kinda cathartic in a weird sense. We then kick around with some pirates, and I'm reminded of what comes next. Clay. Clay is the 5th gym leader and specializes in ground. Now, this wouldn't be a huge problem, except for his ace, Excadrill. Excadrill. The evolution of Drillbur. The Pokemon that I said would be absolutely broken in this game. The encounter I never got. Yeah, Clay is gonna be tough. But before I can worry about Clay, I fight this strange, sad man named Charles, who claims to be a heartbreaker. Dude, I get it, but this isn't gonna bring her back, man. Anyways, I do still have encounters before Clay, so let's grab him. On the Driftvale drawbridge, I catch a Ducklet, who shall now be known henceforth as Ndool. Ndool has a neutral nature, and is going to be very helpful against Clay, even though Ducklet sucks. So much. Then, on Route 6, I encounter a Karrablast, who poses a problem with our run. Karrablast is a Pokemon that can only evolve through trait evolution, and, well, Karrablast sucks. But her evolution, Escavalier, doesn't. So, just maybe, I've been playing this run on my very legitimate, not at all an emulator-specialized Nintendo DS, which allows trade evolutions without needing to trade. This certainly is allowed, right? I definitely didn't download the Universal Pokemon Randomizer for my emulator, change the rules so that trade evolutions are allowed, and catch a Shelmet to evolve Karrablast because that would be against Nintendo's best wishes. Totally! Anyways, I named Karrablast Mariah, and she has an impish nature, which is really, really good. And then all of a sudden, she spontaneously evolves into Escavalier. Wow, how strange. Also, here's Mariah's stats. I forgot to grab them before she evolved. Next, I go up above Driftvale City to get my final encounter, but I'm tested by this rude fellow who is surprisingly nice, and apparently used to work with the pirates before they were pirates, and apparently were Knights of the Old Republic. Makes sense. Anyways, he only has 2 Pokemon, a Herdier and a Swoobat. Now, I'm sure you're asking yourself why I bring up this battle, as it seems rather trivial for my absolutely busted team. Well, let me tell ya, it's only included in this video to show the pure strength of Bug Eaton, as he is so powerful that even 2 workups can't stop him, since Hyper Fang is a 2-hit move, and since he's faster, he can just swap in on the first turn and hit a Hyper Fang on the next one, meaning that he can get the kill before Herdier can even get an attack off. Easy! Now, one more Hyper Fang should finish off the... You know what? I have nothing to say here. I really don't have anything I can add. The clip speaks for itself. Actually, you wanna know the funniest part? As this happened in real time, I was sitting there, and I said to myself, well, this thing's dead as long as Hyper Fang doesn't miss. I hate myself. For a reward of killing off one of my Pokemon as sacrifice, Rude gives me a Zorora. A what? For a reward for killing off one of my Pokemon as a sacrifice, Rude gives me a Zorora. Now, technically I can't nickname the Zorua because it was a gift from somebody, but I'm gonna include it anyways. His honorary name is... Manish Baby. There we go, good as new. As I prepare my team for Clay, I slowly realize how screwed I am. Remember how I said if I was gonna wipe to anybody, it would be Elisa? Yeah, well, Clay changes that perspective a lot. I only have 2 Pokemon who can really touch any of Clay's Pokemon super effectively. Jonathan, who's been sitting in the box ever since Berg, and Ndool, who just sucks. Honestly, Ducklet is garbage, and his evolution Swanna wouldn't even make things easier. I really just have to wing it on a prayer and basically hope that my team can handle anything that comes its way. Alright, Clay. Let's do this. Clay leads Krokorok, and I lead Ndool. I do this because Krokorok is Clay's only Pokemon that doesn't have a Rock-type move, which is super effective against Ndool. It goes first and lands a Crunch, which does half. Meanwhile, my Bubble Beam takes the Krokorok down to what must be 1 HP, and it wasn't even a crit. I know Clay is going to waste his healing item now, so I go for Roost, which heals Ndool. Then, next turn, Krokorok uses Torment, a move that makes it so that Ndool can't use the same move twice in a row. Since my Bubble Beam doesn't crit, I have an idea. I use Feather Dance, a move that lowers the opponent's attack stat by 2 phases, and slowly whittle down the Krokorok's attack, while also roosting to regain health. I do this so that, going into Sandslash, I can be at the most health I can manage. Eventually, once I'm sure I can survive a hit, I knock the Krokorok out. But then Clay sends in his Excadrill, which was not supposed to happen. I panic, realizing that now I'm in serious trouble. Like, I might wipe right here, right now trouble. I try going for Feather Dance to make Excadrill hit a little lighter, but it outspeeds and kills Ndool swiftly. Sorry, Ducky, you really won't be missed. Now I'm really panicking, so I swap into Devo and go for Protect, dodging a Rock Slide. Next turn, Excadrill outspeeds and hits Devo for over half with a Rock Slide, as Devo gets off a String Shot, lowering the Excadrill's speed slightly. I then Protect again, but realize there's no way Devo outspeeds this beast of a Pokemon, and that I need a better option. Honestly, I should have just sacked Devo here, but instead I swap into Jonathan, and Excadrill, of course, gets a critical hit on the switch, taking Jonathan down into death range. Things are looking bleak, and with a heavy heart, I realize Jonathan is likely not getting out of this alive. So, with the Mystic Water clutched close to his heart, Jonathan uses Water Pulse. and it takes the Excadrill down to low red. Excadrill's berry activates, healing him up just into yellow, but Jonathan has done his duty, and I salute as he stands honorably and takes a slash, knowing that his sacrifice will not be in vain. And when my team is etched into the Hall of Fame in the future, he will be the 7th name etched into history. Arena comes in, and fueled by the rage of losing one of her greatest companions, she outspeeds the Excadrill, ignoring her minus speed nature, and kills the murderous mole where it stands. Clay's final Pokemon, another Sandslash, comes out, but this Sandslash does not feel the love nor pain that Arena has felt, as Arena pummels it into the ground, winning us the gym, and honoring the fallen. It is with a heavy heart that I accept the Quake badge, but I do accept it, not for myself, but for my Pokemon. For the ones that have fought effortlessly, for the ones who haven't gotten as much use but still cheer for our victory, and especially for the ones who have laid down their lives for our family to move on. Poco, Strazo, Bug Eaton, Jonathan, for all of you, I will lead us to victory. I will make you proud. I will honor your name. I promise you this. In duel, burn in hell. After barely making it out of the battle against Clay, he decides to drag me to the Pokemon World Tournament. Is this your way of punishing me for my victory, Clay? Are my dead friends not enough to quench your bloodlust? Must you make me suffer more? Anyways, the Pokemon World Tournament is super simple, and after showing Frank, Charon, and Colrez what it means to actually be a trainer, I have another run-in with the pirates who can't do anything right. I guess since the story's picking up, I can finally acknowledge them. We raid their pirate ship, and because I'm just so much better than all of them, I'm forcefully thrown off the ship. Maybe I shouldn't have acknowledged them at all. On Route 6, I meet up with Charon, and he apologizes for wasting my time at the Pokemon World Tournament by giving me the HM for Surf, meaning I can grab a few encounters I missed. I return to Aspertia City, and I can surf on this tiny itty-bitty little pond and find a Basculin. And can I just say that Basculin has one of the dumbest catch rates I've ever seen? This literal fish has a catch rate of 12. 12! That is lower than most of the legendaries in the games. After what feels like hours, I finally catch Basculin and I name him Oingo. Then I send him straight to the box, because without his Hisuian evolution, Basculin is not very good. In Burbank City, I can nab another encounter, and this time it's Frillish, who I call Boingo. Frillish, who actually has a reasonable catch rate, is a Pokemon I've really wanted to use for a long time, so getting one is pretty neat. Also, with a special defense buff and a speed decrease, this jellyfish becomes a nastily good member to replace my fallen water types. Oh hey Cobaltian. Please don't hurt me. Hidden off to the side of Route 6, I can surf to Mistralton Cave. Here I can find Aron and Axew, both of whom would be great additions to my team. Personally, I'd like Axew, because I've always wanted to use a Haxorus. Instead, I find Aron, who isn't a bad encounter necessarily, but I'm a bit disappointed I have to wait to use Axew on a team. I call Aron Steely Dan, and with a lonely nature, he's really not that great. Shame, because I really like Aron and his evolution line too. My next encounter is in Chargestone Cave, and while I finally could get that Excadrill I missed out on, I'd rather get one of the natural encounters in the cave, because if we're being honest, other than Woobat, there isn't a bad encounter here. I end up getting Ferroseed, which is really nice because I love this little steel nut. I call him Rubber Soul, even though I'm pretty sure that has to be one of the most brittle Pokemon in existence. It's a steel ball with needles sticking out of it. He has an adamant nature, which is pretty good. I'd love to say I get to use this guy and his nut energy, but I don't, so don't get your hopes up. But what really stinks is that once I get down to the second floor, my first encounter is a Tynamo, who has a 7% encounter rate, and I would have absolutely loved to use. Why must you spite me, universe? What did I do this time? I then reach Mistralton City and hurry off to Route 7, where I can find a plethora of encounters, and I get Deerling. At least it's not Woobat. I hate Woobat. My little Deerling is named Lisa, and paired with a speed-boosting nature, she's rather good, but with a lower defense, she basically becomes even more of a glass cannon than she already is. On a grass type. One of the worst types in the game. I guess you could call it a grass cannon. Yeah, I'll see myself out. At the end of Route 7 is the Celestial Tower, where I can find my encounter of Litwick, who I fittingly name Enya. Seriously, read the Litwick Evolutions Pokedex entries. Those are dark. Enya has a jelly nature, which is bad. Not very good. Quite garbage even. One of the worst for this Pokemon, if not the worst. Great! I'm sure this Pokemon will be no use of me ever in this entire run. I'm sure of it. Now it's time for the 6th gym, Skyla, or as my friend Sean, who joined me for the session, said, and I quote, one of my crushes. In preparation for Skyla, I evolved Kakyoin into Gigalith, as I believe Kakyoin will have a fantastic use into Skyla's only real threat. Skyla leads with her Swoobat and I lead Kakyoin. Swoobat goes for Attract, which hits, and Kakyoin gets immobilized by Love. It's a flying rat, you pile of rocks, pull yourself together. Swoobat hits a Heart Stamp, but it barely does anything, and Kakyoin ignores his emotions as a living stone golem and lands a Stealth Rock. Stealth Rock is a move that leaves stones lying around the enemy team, which does damage to any Pokemon that swaps in. This is important for Skyla's Skarmory, who is sturdy, so making sure that that thing can go down in as few hits as possible is vital. But now Kakyoin has done his job, so I swap him out for Speedwagon. With a single Spark, Swoobat goes down. Next is Skyla's ace, Swanna, who goes for Feather Dance, which means nothing because I'm a special attacker, you idiot. Nevertheless, a single spark clips the wings of this bird, and in comes Skarmory. So I swap into Danny, who hard counters Skarmory, and since Sturdy is broken, Danny tanks a resisted Seal Wing and blows the Skarmory out of the sky. That's Skyla done, though I was never worried about her. After taking a really dangerous flight, we arrive in Lentimus Town, where I can quickly skip a story that the game wants me to pay attention to, and head to Reversal Mountain, which is separated into an outside and inside. I was going to split the encounters up, but I ultimately don't really use either of these encounters, so it doesn't really matter, so we're just going to skip past it. I then find it a strange house, and after grabbing the Shadow Ball TM, I can grab my encounter of a Banette. This child, despite being a female apparently, goes by Emporio. Emporio has a decent nature, but while Banette is a Pokemon I hold dear to my heart, it's not very good without a Mega Evolution, so I'll leave them to reside in the box for now. After this battle, Boingo evolves into Jellicent, and I teach him Shadow Ball. While trying to leave Reversal Mountain, I'm harassed by Bianca, who begged to go on a solo adventure and then needed me to take her across the hardest part of the journey. Along the way, I'm forced to face a double battle against Ace Trainers Korra and Ray, who are loaded up with strong Pokemon. I mean, seriously, a Vibrava, Drifloon, and a Camerupt? Also, Grumpig's there, but we're not talking about Grumpig. I had no choice, so I did a lot of planning to face this single random battle. I lead Coco Jumbo and Bianca sends out Musharna, while the enemy sends out Vibrava and Grumpig. Coco Jumbo takes a Hard Power Gem, which does just under half, and then Vibrava uses Earth Power into Coco Jumbo, and I wince as I expect my boy to go down. But Coco Jumbo hangs on in low yellow and heals up a bit thanks to a held Oran Berry I don't remember giving him. And Coco Jumbo releases a powerful X-Scissor which annihilates the Grumpig, and Musharna's Shadow Ball takes the Vibrava down to half. Then comes in Drifloon. Reluctantly, I switch into Arena to save Coco Jumbo's life, and the Drifloon hits a critical hit Hex into Arena, dealing 60 nasty hits of damage. Then the Vibrava uses Earth Power into Arena also, but she holds on at low yellow as well, and Musharna takes out the Vibrava, so in comes Camerupt. I can't let Arena stay in, so I swap into Boingo, who tanks a super effective Hex from Drifloon, and Musharna hits the Camerupt using a strong Psychic, while the cow only goes for Curse. The Drifloon finally attacks Bianca's Pokemon, and my serve takes out the Camerupt, but barely does a fifth to the Zeppelin. But Musharna's Psychic does about half to this balloon, so while Drifloon attacks Musharna again next turn, it doesn't matter because a Shadow Ball from Boingo finally takes out the strangely powerful Hot Air Balloon. I did not deserve to make it through that fight without a death. I dump Bianca off at the exit of the cave, and after making it through one of the most stressful battles in the game, I'm rewarded with a relaxing beach vacation in Undella Town. But instead of relaxing, I nab a pivotal encounter, Staryu, who I nickname Akira. With a neither great nor awful nature, she's not a bad encounter, but she's a very guaranteed safe Pokemon to bring into the next gym, who, as of the moment, I'm kinda nervous for. Then, while looking for an encounter in Undella Bay, who I predicted I would never use, I find a savior disguised in a cute, circular body. Spheal. You see, I forgot that my game thought it was winter for some reason, meaning I could catch this blessing in disguise. But why is Spheal a blessing? Well, the next gym is Drayden, the Dragon-type leader, and he's a monster. Since Dragon is only weak to Ice and Dragon in this generation, and I missed my only actual Dragon-type encounter, and Ice-types are rather scarce at the moment, I was afraid I would have to take on the Bearded Menace with no super effective attacks. But because of Spheal, who I nicknamed Anjuro, I have a way to tackle my next hurdle, plus boosted special attack is never a detriment. But as I go to leave this tropical paradise, I forgot that your rival challenges you to a battle here, and as you can guess, I'm not prepared at all. This is gonna be bad. Luckily, Frank leads Unpheasant, and I happen to have Speedwagon at the front of the party, so we're safe for now. But because Speedwagon's best move is Spark, I don't get the kill on the Unpheasant, only taking it down to just below half. After a turn of Detect, Unpheasant hits an Air Slash, which doesn't even scratch Speedwagon, and of course it flinches. Next turn, Unpheasant just sets up a taunt, and Speedwagon can finally kill the big pigeon. Up next is Simisear, so I safely swap into Boingo, and Simisear goes for... Leer? Why Leer? I had a steel type out, right? Why not use the fire move you have? Sibusir goes for a leer again, but a single surf washes the monkey away. But now comes in the superior, and I, idiotically, don't swap out and instead try to go for a shadow ball, apparently forgetting that Boingo has a -2 defense at the moment against a super effective Pokemon. So, of course, a Leaf Blade kills Boingo. And that stings a lot, because I love Jellicent, and that marks the 3rd water type I've killed in a row. Since the Superior is still standing, I swap into Speedwagon, who just resists all of its attacks. Superior goes for a Coil, while Speedwagon just does under half with a Flash Cannon. Next turn, a Leaf Blade from Superior does about a 4th, but another Flash Cannon kills the Superior. Losing Boingo there was rough, and seeing how it could have ended is really painful for me. Just another misplay that cost another life. But hey, I'm only human. This battle reminded me that the game was pretty brutal and that I can't let my guard down during any battle, so I updated the team, adding Akira, Anjuro, and Lisa to the team. While training them up, Lisa evolves into Sonsbuck, and thankfully it's the best form. Yes, Autumn is the best form. If you have a different opinion than me, you're wrong. I also make a quick detour back to Route 19 to grab a hidden water stone so I can evolve Akira into a Starmie. On Route 13, I found a Zeppelin of my own and name her Anne. And her gentle nature is fine, but can you tell I'm running out of ways to describe my encounters yet? Before I'm able to leave Lacanosa town, I'm jumped by the pirates again, and this time they're joined by this character named Zinzalin, who challenges me and Frank to a double battle. Nothing really of note happens during this battle, but can I just say that Frank, whose entire goal is to defeat Team Plasma, picked the absolute worst starter to go for? I mean, they use poison and ice types, my dude. I thought you would have researched your mortal enemies a little bit. After scaring off the pirates, I make it to Route 12, where I find a small boy, Roselia, who I call Tomoko. With a rash nature, Tomoko is actually pretty good, especially for a grass type. After beating an old man with a flaming dog, I find a Zangoose by Village Bridge, and aptly name him Abachio. Immunity and a plus speed nature is really good, and he would make a good teammate if things go south in the future. Psst! I don't use him! Route 11 is next, and I find this fungus among us, and reluctantly catch her and name her Alessi. I'd love to put her on the team, but she's just an untrustworthy Tomoko. Nope. After what feels like hours, it has been hours, we make it to Opelucid City, where the dreaded Drayden resides. Before I even dream of taking the gym on, I rush over to Route 11, where I can use Speedwagon's Magnet Pull ability in tandem with Repels to catch who I consider to be this run's savior, Poniard. Poniard, being a Dark Steel type, is a fantastic Pokemon. High attack, decent speed, great move pool, also it just looks cool. I mean, come on, it's a skeleton knight made out of blades. What else could you ask for? I named Poniard Polnareff, which is basically perfect, and a naive nature is absolutely terrific for what I have planned for her. Now it's time for Drayden, who is a rather scary gym, all things considered, but thanks to Anjuro, I can use a relatively safe strategy that might just save a few lives. Drayden and his magnificent beard lead Druddigon, and I send out the boy, Anjuro. Since Druddigon is quite possibly slower than me getting out of bed in the morning, Anjuro gets to use Hail first, which serves 2 functions in the battle. 1, thanks to Anjuro's Ice Body ability, he recovers HP during a hailstorm, and 2, thanks to Hail, the base 110 power Ice-type move Blizzard is a guaranteed hit. And since Anjuro has a boosted special attack, this gym is pretty well set. Meanwhile, the Druddigon goes for Crunch, which does about a 4th. After Ice Body recovery, Anjuro can move first again and annihilate the Lego Dragon. Then in comes the Flygon, who actually outspeeds Anjuro and hits a strong Rock Slide, taking Anjuro down 58 health points. And of course it flinches! I'm having great luck this run! Another Rock Slide from Flygon takes Anjuro down to the low yellow, but a Never Miss Blizzard, which is 4 times effective against Flygon, destroys it immediately. Finally, it's Haxorus' turn, but Anjuro surprisingly outspeeds, freezing the Haxorus before it even gets a chance. And with that, we've taken out the 7th gym and beat this absolute hunk of a man. Another worrying battle is behind us, thank goodness. Drayden decides that since we've proven our worth, he'll tell us the secrets of the region, which is just basically him saying that there are actually 3 dragons, not 2, and that the 3rd dragon can Dragon Ball Fortnite fuse with other dragons. Neat. Then suddenly, the Ice Pirates appear, and can I just say that Team Plasma, yes, I finally learned their names, are the coolest villains in the franchise because they have an ice railgun? There is no way Pokemon will ever top an ice railgun. So after kicking all the literal terrorists out of the Frozen Over town, we head back to Undella town and we can finally go through the Marine Tube, and it's so pretty! Unfortunately, we reach the end of the Marine Tube and reach Humalao City, where the final gym awaits. Jesus Christ! In revenge for jump scaring me, I battle the gym leader Marlin, who uses water types, and Let me ask you, do you think that me, somebody with an electric type and a grass type, will struggle against this gym? I hope you said no, because yeah, this battle is a sweep by Lisa, who I've severely overlooked for this run. Saucebuck is pretty good. Anyways, I wipe the floor with Marlin and get the final gym badge. But of course, we can't just take on the Elite Four and Champion just yet, because we have to take up the Evil Team. Yay! I certainly care a lot. Before I can take them on, though, I have a few tasks to do. First, I return to the Strange House to grab a Dusk Stone and evolve Enya into Chandelure, who will be vital for an upcoming battle. Secondly, I head to the Giant Chasm where I can encounter Sneasel. This is an amazing encounter. Not only is Weavile one of my favorite Pokemon of all time, but having a speedy Ice and Dark type is a massive counter to most of the Elite Four and Champion. In addition, Joseph here, named after my favorite protagonist, has a godsend plus speed nature. Yes, please. Afterwards, me and Frank find the evil pirate ship, and with the help from a humiliated Marlin, we sneak on board and learn that the pirates have control of the third dragon, Kiram. We also crush Zinzolin again before being kicked off the ship and having to go find it again. So we return to the Giant Chasm where we can find the Razor Claw so we can evolve Joseph into Weavile. But before we can do that, we have to battle Colress again, who is revealed to be the leader of Team Plasma. This time though, this is for Strazo. Colress leads Magneton and I send out Enya, who's going to be a heavy carry in this battle. A Flame Burst from Enya takes Magneton down to low red, and Magneton hits a Thunder Wave, but a held Cherry Berry cures the paralysis. So next turn, Colress heals while another Flame Burst takes Magneton down low red, and the next turn another Flame Burst takes out the Magneton. Next out is Metang, so I try and burn it, but miss while the Metang gets off in agility. Next turn though, the Enya hits a Will-O-Wisp, which burns the Metang, while the Metang just goes for another agility. It hits a surprisingly soft Rock Slide next turn, and a Hex from Enya just barely misses the kill, but the burn takes out the Metang anyways. So next is the Kling Klang, the Murder Gears. While I should be worried, a single Flame Burst takes down the Gears. Behem is next, but a single Shadow Ball takes it out quick. So Colress sends in his final Pokemon, a Magnezone of his own. A Flame Burst takes the Magnezone to what must be 1 HP even without proccing Sturdy, and it retaliates with Thunder Wave. Next turn it hits a hard Discharge, and of course Enya gets paralyzed. So I swap into Lisa, who takes about a fourth from a resisted Discharge, but next turn a Horn Leech from Lisa wins us the battle. Before the next battle, I return to the Pokemon World Tournament to gather battle points, your reward for winning tournaments. I do this plenty of times, such as to buy the Swords Dance TM. Swords Dance is a fantastic setup move that boosts the user's attack stat by 2 stages, which is a fantastic counter to Getsis, the real leader of Team Plasma, who challenges me to a battle against Kiram White, a Dragon Fire type. Now, you may be wondering, Tyler, it's a Fire type. Why are you using a Steel type? Well, right after you beat Kiram White, you have to battle Getsis himself, who is a scarily good team. But his lead Cofagrigus can be set up against from Bisharp, but it's at risk to a super effective Fusion Flare against the Kiram White, so I have to risk it here. But it just goes for an Ice Burn, which always goes last, so a Steel Gem boosted Iron Head KOs the demon thing. Oh, side note, gems are items introduced in Generation 5 that boost the power of a move by 50% of its same type as the gem, so it's basically a guaranteed critical hit. So now we duke it out with Getsis, but as previously mentioned, Getsis' lead Cofagrigus can't touch Bisharp, since it's supposed to poison the player and then stall it out, but since Bisharp is a Steel type, it can't be poisoned. In fact, this Coffin can only hit Polnareff with a not very effective Shadow Ball. Naturally, I want to abuse this, so I set up 3 Sword Stances, while the Cofagrigus just protects twice and hits a very, very weak Shadow Ball, while a +6 boosted Night Slash smashes the Cofagrigus. And then the massacre begins. A Night Slash KOs the Seismitoad, and Iron Head brutalizes the Toxicroak. The Drapion does outspeed, but since an Earthquake doesn't crit, I can survive it comfortably, and another Iron Head crushes the Drapion. The Electros is turned into Sushi by a Night Slash, and an Iron Head will kill the Hydreigon. Unless it moves first. But since Polnareff survives the Dragon Rush, I could just kill it with a... or we could just flinch! Great! Since the Hydreigon has a Life Orb, an item that exchanges more damage output for a slight loss of HP each attacking turn, this thing can hit my entire team like a truck. And since Polnareff doesn't outspeed it, I can't stay in. So I swap into Speedwagon, who takes a 4th from a Dragon Rush. So after taking another one, Speedwagon releases a Discharge, which barely does anything. So I risk a crit to hit a Flash Cannon, and luckily I remain unpunished. Except that, of course, it flinches! Again! So I desperately swap into Enya, but a single Dragon Rush proves to me that she can't stay in, so I pivot into Akira. But again, a single hit from Dragon Rush takes Akira too low to stay in for another turn. It's a 75% accurate move. Miss one, you ugly demon motherfucker. Since I'm basically out of options, I swap into Lisa while Getsis healed. Since this thing has basically been drained really low due to all the hits it's been getting, I try and go for a jump kick. and Lisa goes first, dealing over half. And then the Hydreigon finally misses an attack. So, with a final jump kick, the Hydreigon is taken down, winning us the battle against Getsus. I did not deserve to get out of that with a full team, but with that battle won, I could finally move on to the victory road, to the end of my adventure. On round 23, I can grab the Flamethrower TM, and then, while trying to grab my counter of a Bouffalon, I accidentally used a Horn Leech from Lisa, which activates this Bison's Sap Sipper ability, meaning that this attack is rendered pointless, and the Bouffalon gets an attack boost. So, as you can probably guess, I have to watch in terror as a Bouffalon lands a critical hit head smash, killing Lisa in one fell swoop. Oh, and by the way, this death happened just 10 minutes after Lisa finished off the Hydreigon, so not surprisingly, I was pretty torn up about this. After her performance against Getsus and all the trainers on the route, I was planning on bringing Lisa to the Elite Four, but now that's out of the window. Sorry Lisa, I failed you. Against a Bouffalon. Oh, and I catch the Bouffalon and name him Caesar, but I don't end up using him, so Lisa's sacrifice was for nothing. After traversing the surprisingly diverse landscape of this game's Victory Road, I mean, seriously, this game's Victory Road is so nice, and also the first time a Victory Road hasn't just been a boring cave. I have one more significant battle before I can take on the finale of the game, and that's with Frank. Now, I still remember when Frank absolutely demolished Boingo, so this time, I'm planning revenge. Frank starts the battle with his Unpheasant, so I lead Joseph. An Ice Punch just barely misses the kill on the Unpheasant while it goes for a U-turn, which deals significant damage to the Joseph, and then the Unpheasant gets a free switch out into Simisear. So naturally I swap into Akira and take a Rock Slide at about a 4th. But on the next turn, Akira can just wash away the monkey with a single Surf. So next comes in Frank's own Bouffalon, so I try and go for another Surf, but it just misses half, and then the Bouffalon head charges. And it kills. Another rough kill. I was also planning on bringing Akira to the Elite Four, and while she hasn't been extremely useful to the run so far, it's a shame she never got to reach her full potential. Also, for anyone wondering, that's 2 deaths to a Bouffalon's head charge in the span of 30 minutes, back to back. I swap into Joseph, who finishes off the Bouffalon with a Brick Break in Akira's honor. So back in comes the Unpheasant, and while Frank heals the Overgrown Pigeon next turn, 2 successive Ice Punches can take it out. So finally, in comes the Serperior, so I swap Joseph for Enya, who tanks a Leaf Blade. Next turn, the Serperior outspeeds, landing a critical hit Leaf Blade, which does an uncomfortable amount of damage, and Enya responds with a Flamethrower, which takes the snake down to red. Since I know Enya can't take another hit, I swap into Polnareff, who takes a 3rd from a Leaf Blade, but next turn, after masterfully tanking another critical hit Leaf Blade, Polnareff can retaliate with a Night Slash and KO the Serperior, winning us the final rival fight. So much for revenge. With this battle won though, I can finally take on the Elite Four, the final challenge of this run. But before I can even dream of doing that, I need to rebuild my team. I mean, I did just lose 2 of my team members right at the finish line, so that's fun! After careful consideration, I finally decided on my final team to go against the Elite Four and champion. First is Joseph, whose speed and ice typing make him a monster team sweeper into not only most of the Elite Four, but the champion as well. Next up is Speedwagon, who I've basically named the unofficial starter of the run. While he's not the best in the final battles, he's a great counter into anything that the rest of my team can't handle. Thirdly is Enya, who, despite her special attack lowering nature, is a phenomenal special attacker, and while I don't envision her getting a ton of use, she's a great swap into most dangerous situations, especially against Marshall, the fighting type specialist. Fourth is Coco Jumbo, who's really only here for one move, Stealth Rock. I debated bringing Kakyoin for this situation, but I felt that the bug typing was too useful to pass up on. Fifth is Vanilla Ice, which may seem odd since I absolutely roasted this adamant-natured, very oddly shaped blob, but thanks to Frank, I lost my main counter into Marshall, who is easily my toughest opponent in the Elite Four, by a long shot, so I needed a good counter, and Vanilla Ice seemed like a good choice. And last but not least is Polnareff, who, thanks to the Getsus battle, has proven her worth on the battlefield, and that cannot be understated. Plus, much like Joseph, Dark is a great counter into half of the Elite Four, and Steel is, as mentioned before, a really good type. I think that we can do this. Let's end my first ever Nuzlocke. I decided to take on the Elite Four in order from easiest to hardest, so first up is Caitlyn, the Psychic type member. But with 2 Dark types and a Bug type, I'm not worried about her. Besides, I only plan on using 1 Pokemon. Polnareff. Caitlyn leads her fetus, I mean her Musharna, and I of course lead Polnareff. Now this Musharna loves to use the move Yawn, which puts the opposing Pokemon to sleep. So I gave Polnareff a Chesto Berry, which allows the user to wake up by themselves. So I set up a sword stance with Polnareff while Musharna goes for a Charge Beam. What? I have never seen that before. Not from my experience, not from any YouTube video, nothing. This Musharna has no reason to go for Charge Beam here. While she does get the special attack boost, it still doesn't make any sense, unless she knew she'd get the boost. So trying to beat the Yawn, I go for another Swords Dance, while the Musharna finally decides to go for Yawn. Thanks to this, I can knock out the Musharna with a Night Slash, and when Polnareff does fall asleep, the Chesto Berry does its job and wakes Polnareff up. And with that, the battle is a one-shot sweep. And the first battle is won. Next up is Grimsley, who uses Dark types, so I lead Polnareff again while Grimsley leads Liepard. Thanks to Polnareff's Inner Focus ability, she can't be flinched, so she can set up a Swords Dance, and after tanking a weak Aerial Ace and setting up another Swords Dance, the sweep can begin again thanks to the move Brick Break, which I taught Polnareff. I do have to risk a crit from the Crocodile, but since it doesn't crit, I can sweep his whole team, which is another battle won. So now we face Ghost-type Master Chantal, and this time I don't lead Polnareff, but I lead Joseph instead. Meanwhile, Chantal leads Cofagrigus. I start setting up Swords Dances while the Cofagrigus goes for a very weak Shadow Ball. After setting up another Swords Dance and taking another Shadow Ball, I go for Night Slash, which shatters the dead person. No, I'm not joking. Read the Pokedex entry. Her Golurk also goes down to a single Night Slash, and then in comes her Ace Chandelure, but another Night Slash takes it out. So finally out comes a Drifblim, and thanks to the Aftermath ability, I don't want to risk losing Joseph, so I swap into Speedwagon, who ironically gets hit by a Thunderbolt, which barely does anything. So after tanking a Shadow Ball, Speedwagon can OHKO the Drifblim, winning us our third battle. That leaves Marshall, but I feel as if it's an unspoken truth of the Pokemon community that Marshall is easily the most difficult Elite Four battle in this game. He has so much coverage that the rest of his fellow leaders don't, and there are not a lot of good flying or psychic types that can reliably survive the whole battle. My goal is just to lose as little Pokemon as possible in this battle, honestly, but I'm afraid I'm gonna have to make some sacrifices. Marshall leads with his Throw while I lead Coco Jumbo. Coco Jumbo somehow outspeeds and sets up a Stealth Rock while the Throw just goes for payback, which doesn't hurt us at all. So then I swap in Vanilla Ice, who takes about a fourth from the payback. Another payback takes Vanilla Ice down to half, but a Psychic takes out the Throw. So next up is the Mind Chow, so I swap into Enya as the Mind Chow goes for a bounce. I try and stay in, but of course Enya is faster than the literal glass cannon, so she gets hit to just under half by a bounce, and of course it paralyzes. So next turn Enya is no longer faster, and Mind Chow goes for another bounce, and Enya misses again. I decide to swap into Speedwagon, who takes a pitiful 11 damage, but knowing that this thing's gonna go for a high jump kick, I swap back into Enya, who can't be hit by the high jump kick, so the Mind Chow misses, dealing half to itself. So I swap back into Speedwagon as the Mind Chow goes for another bounce. When it does hit again, it barely even scratches my Metal Ball, and a Thunderbolt takes out the Mind Chow. In comes Marshall's ace Conkeldurr, who's the real threat on his team. So I swap into Enya, predicting the Hammer Arm that would have crushed Speedwagon into a little pulp. I try going for a Shadow Ball, but the Conkeldurr outspeeds and goes for a Stone Edge, but it thankfully misses, and Enya gets a critical hit Shadow Ball, taking out the Conkeldurr in a single hit. Well, that wasn't the plan, but that just means I don't have to risk anyone's life against that monster of a Pokemon. So finally arrives Sock, which is the whole reason I set up the Stealth Rock, since it has the Sturdy ability, and I can break it. I decided to swap into Coco Jumbo, but a super effective Rock Slide does too much damage to the little crab thing to risk another hit on Coco Jumbo, since I need him in the champion battle. So I swap back into Vanilla Ice. The Rock Slide on the switch-in does about a half of Vanilla Ice's remaining HP, and I realize here that there's no way Vanilla Ice doesn't go down here. So I click Psychic, but the Sock outspeeds and pummels Vanilla Ice into the ground. I wasn't really extremely attached to Vanilla Ice, but that doesn't make this loss sting any less. So I swap into Speedwagon, and he nearly gets instantly smashed by a Brick Break while a Thunderbolt takes the Sock down to early red. I swap back into Enya while Marshall heals. I tried going for a Shadow Ball, but the Sock hits a Rock Slide first, and it crits, killing Enya in one swift blow. I was actually getting attached to Enya, so losing her here, while optimal, was a tragic loss. Sorry, Enya. I snuffed out your light. I swap into Polnareff despite the 4x weakness and outspeed the Sock, hitting an Iron Head, which does over half. So I prepare to lose another teammate against this single Sock, but the Sock flinches, saving Polnareff's life. And since she outspeeds the Sock, another Iron Head KOs the Sock, winning us the final Elite Four battle, but costing us two fantastic Pokemon. But now comes the final battle against the strongest trainer in the region, Champion Iris, who specializes in being really strong. While the two losses are tough, they're also the most useless into Iris's team, so I have a plan, but it's gonna cost us a few more lives, but with it, I think we can make it. Alright, this is it, the final battle. Let's finish this, for all the friends we lost along the way. Here we go. Champion Iris leads Hydreigon and I lead Coco Jumbo, who takes a ton of damage from a Surf, but he can land a Stealth Rock, and with that, Coco Jumbo has served his purpose, and needs to go down so I can get a safe switch in. Unfortunately, this was the plan from the beginning, even if I didn't lose 2 Pokemon to Marshall. So next turn I salute Coco Jumbo as he takes a Flamethrower and falls here at the end. Don't worry buddy, I won't let your sacrifice be in vain. Thanks to Coco Jumbo's sacrifice, I can swap in the MVP of this battle, Joseph, holding the Choice Band, an item that boosts the power of the physical attacks, but makes it so the user can only use one move. Since everyone on Iris' team has a move that can hit super effectively into Joseph, there's no time to set up. Now, it's time for action. A single Ice Punch kills both the Hydreigon and Druddigon, and then arrives her ace Haxorus, who has a Focus Sash, which is why I set up the Stealth Rocks, so a single Ice Punch freezes this thing solid too. Next in is Archeops, but again, a Ice Punch takes this thing out. But then Iris sends in her Aggron, and I know that an Ice Punch can't kill this thing, so I decide to swap out into Polnareff, while the Aggron just uses Automatize. An Earthquake from Aggron does a great deal of damage, but a Brick Break from Polnareff just barely misses the kill. Iris heals, so another Brick Break deals massive amounts of damage, but here I have to let Polnareff go too. This is a sacrifice that needs to happen, and unfortunately, Polnareff is the one that this burden falls upon. So another Earthquake takes Polnareff down. Rest in peace, buddy. I swap back into Joseph and outspeed the Aggron, hitting a Night Slash, but I need to hit another for the kill. Thankfully, the Aggron just goes for another Automatize. This time though, it outspeeds and hits a powerful Double Edge, but it doesn't kill, so another Night Slash takes out the Aggron, leaving only Iris' Lapras in our way. Joseph outspeeds, but the Night Slash doesn't kill, so Lapras hits a Sing, which puts Joseph to sleep. So next turn, Joseph unfortunately doesn't wake up, and he falls to a Surf from Lapras, but with this sacrifice, I can safely swap in Speedwagon, and with the help from an entirely useless Electric Gem, Speedwagon hits a super effective Thunderbolt, taking down the Lapras and winning us the run. That was a lot of fun. Sure, it was stressful and demoralizing at times, but the experience of having to plan for major battles, of never knowing what you had to work with until you got it, the thrill of beating my favorite Pokemon game, but in a more difficult way, outclasses the negative emotions I felt at the low points during the run. This was honestly a blast from start to finish, full of twists and turns, sacrifices, and smart plays. Honestly, this is something I fully enjoyed, and I hope you guys enjoyed it too. I do think I'll try a few more of these in the future, though I'm not so sure about it yet. It all depends, since as of writing this script, I'm fresh to college, and as of editing this, I'm already a few weeks in. But if you guys honestly enjoy this video in this style, I would love to do more of these. Well, with that out of the way, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, I have to follow the YouTuber mantra and ask you to like the video and subscribe if you aren't already. But with that out of the way, I want to thank you all for watching and joining me on me completing my first ever Pokemon Hardcore Nuzlocke. Thank you.